Man, this thing keep disturbing my flow every now and then. Ah, goodness. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. Yes, but how for do life goes on. And what has to be done will be done. What has to be done will be done. This thing keeps disturbing my flow. Just when I'm in my flow, when I'm in my element, it sort of disturbs the wave. You know, and it can put anybody off anyway. But having said this, hello, my brother. How are you? Hello.
Fine.
How you doing, pal?
No bad.
Good. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on live. Obviously, this is not the program then and now. I been want to talk about corruption. On a corruption, how they talk about it. How they talk about the history of Sierra Leone and the case of corruption and how corruption don't affect with services and consequently how we people and suffer as a consequence of corruption. Corruption not only limited to one side. It's a broad spectrum. Now, the entire society, not even the church, is free from corruption. So, like I've been saying, I've been on begin the program already. Yes, Sister Aminata, hello, how are you? How are you, my sister? People are just they join back. I thank Una very much for joining back, for signing on again. I get a guest on the line, and I just explain to exactly the direction where I will be going today. So, like I say, I'm going to talk about the political history of the country, and this is part 2. Last week was part 1. Today is part 2, and we're going to talk about corruption, how corruption has plagued our country and disturbed the inflow of much needed revenue, which is supposed to go into the services to make a nation prosper, and therefore its citizens prosper as well. But unfortunately, this is not the case. It fills the pockets of a few. Not only then, but even now. Not even now, but even all the way the other time. Shortly before independence, shortly before independence, now. And hopefully, if something is not done now, my take on this is like it's going to continue. So welcome to the program. Whose contribution will you want to make, sir? Welcome.
You get me?
Live and clear.
Okay, well, actually, I don't get much contribution for make. I've been just want to try for listen to which you did try for push up, but as you don't get a preview about what you did talk about, actually no say corruption a big problem now with society, especially as you did talk. But now certain thing we don't take when it did in the society, and it's very difficult for eradicate. Because even some of we when they preach about corruption, we all lay inside the same corruption. But however, we can able to make a difference. You see, we can able to make a good difference for change that perception day. But as I tell you, it's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Yeah. At times I can try a lot because I work widely with a lot of organizations, grassroots organizations, the one activist of the Pan-African Union. I look at the issue, it's very, very difficult. But however, it's fine for let play a role, for let we able to see how we're able to cut them down. You see how we're able to cut them down, and we go able, if we all try to put hands together. You see, we go able, but as I tell you, it's not easy. It's not totally easy because also poverty Poverty is the key issues. And I find out, say, some of we people, they say, we only talk about this corruption. The moment they get opportunity, forget something somewhere, they don't forget about the contribution towards changing the idea of corruption. You see, but however, a big struggle, and we go try. As they try for do it to do so. I really glad it. And the first thing this for me for join this, we are able to say very, very, very good for level the day on debate like this. So go able to educate people, let people able to understand the situation of the country. And not really, really easy because this is a national issue. A national issue, you know. I mean, a little bit contributions this way I will give first. I will just want to give chance to other people, or if you get other people, let them talk. But just to give a preview for say, now a very big challenge, and we're not for freedom. We all for come together and see what we will get for do for let people understand what is corruption. Because to me, even the one safe way they take, the one way they give, they're all not part of this corruption.
Yep.
You see. Anyway, I'll go stop there for the moment. Maybe you want to say something else.
I get one or two quick questions for you. First of all, obviously, you're not a first-time caller and participant at this program, so we want to extend a warm welcome from the staff, members, normal people. When I say normal, I mean the regular guys and ladies on this channel. We want to extend a warm welcome to you. And your name again, I think Ibrahim, is that correct?
Ibrahim Sisse.
Ibrahim Sisse, because I see him briefly when you appear. But thanks for taking the time out, for come and watch something where, as you rightfully say, is significant, and that significance then I want to point out too. But one quick question before you go away. You appear for first of all, away from the camera after this program finish. If you send me your contact details, I go like for liaise with you. Because you appear for be a stakeholder, and we work with stakeholders them so we can see how we can arrive at some possible solutions to many other issues affecting, us as a people. But the question to you, Mr. Ibrahim, you speak brilliantly about corruption and how it need for be done. But while you're in the public view like this, although you say, except when we put hands together, which I agree with, but waiting or do you have few ideas where you can suggest as to how we can go about, trying to stop or not stop because that's difficult, but mitigate corruption where they ambog we badly?
Well, first of all, education as they try for involve people as they do now, make people and contribute towards the idea. I think that's a positive step because people don't understand exactly what's in a corruption. Because some people end up in corruption, they don't say they end up in corruption.
Absolutely correct.
So the first to go for make them understand what's in a corruption. Now I make a point out one area. See, corruption, the one way they take and the other they give, then two are part and parcel of the same thing. Yeah. But the one way they take at times, you don't feel to say corrupt. They feel say because poor and this and that, so then they get anything go take. But not to that. Instead, say where they take, now part of the corruption. If you not take, then it's time for educating how they get and say, no, this way they give me so I no go take them because this is not a good thing. Then we will start to see changes. But the idea of poverty in Africa, people are not able for understand that or for able to act reality. You see, so yes, I just give it. I don't go too much on the other people that give contributions.
Absolutely, sir. But like I say, I really, really appreciate your effort for appearing on this channel for the very first time, and I hope so we will continue to see you and allow you and salute you for your contribution and the way how you make the contribution as a whole. And please, as a stakeholder, not forget for send me your contact details because I would like to get very much in contact. Thank you very much.
I can give me contact details. You want now? I can give you.
Yeah, okay. I mean, because you did live, and if you want to make a live, I don't have a problem with that. So go on.
Because, I mean, I like everybody get me contact details, because
okay. So let me give you the opportunity then. Use this channel. Use the now. Okay. For tell the people who you are. Okay, what you do, and possible contacts, how you can be contacted if anybody wish to contact you.
Well, my name is Ibrahim Sisse. I'm born in Sierra Leone, Freetown, and they in various community development initiatives. Freetown as well as the diaspora here in the UK. And recently, I just come from Sierra Leone with the African Foundation for Development for see how we go engage diasporas them in terms of development in their country of origin. Yeah, as I say, I really want to contribute towards the development of my country, because not only now, even my people in Sierra Leone, especially Freetown, they know I work with different organizations like the Firestone Community Development Organization. I was once the project manager. Most of the development that we see, the main part and parcel of that. And as well, Probinians development organizations, we've been getting the best youth bakery now Freetown, when still they go on. And various other developments them are involved in them. You see, and in the near future, a lot of programs then they come up with for involve people them in terms. They look at sports. Okay, for example, I get a large resources on sports. When they use that for connect different types of development them. Right. You see, so I depend on it, but may God make everything materialize. Then I go see how I go involve quite a lot of other people. You see, I don't want to go much because
that sounds quite brilliant. Is there like a website, a contact number, an email address where if anybody who don't listen to you are interested in co-opting with you or getting in touch with you, like I say, any website, any email address, contact number?
Well, the website, I get a website actually, but they're under maintenance for the moment where they try for that. Because at the moment, me are the Chief Executive Officer of the Sierra Leone Diaspora Development Foundation. You see, so the website actually it will come on very soon, maybe in the next 1 month or 2 months.
Okay.
Yes. Then my contact email for now, because me the local organizer for ActionAid UK as well now, and I connect ActionAid with other diaspora organizations them, so I can normally use the email contact. When Ibrahim, Ibrahim, dot Sesay, SESAY, dot ActionAid, ACTIONAID, at gmail.com. So anybody we want get in touch with me can send an email to me, or you can WhatsApp me na 079 31212953.
Will you repeat that number again, please?
079 31 21 2953.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Conte. What a wonderful contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, to those of you that are listening, you can see Mr. Ibrahim Conte is quite a stakeholder. Ibrahim Sesay, sorry, thanks for the correction. Ibrahim Sesay is quite a stakeholder, and in this public manner, they don't declare how you can get in touch with them. Should you be interested in many of the actions them where he involved, but we're not developmental projects, by the way, where they help for bring empowerment to the community and with people. What a wonderful young man. Thank you so much. If you want to reach Mr. Ibrahim, get in email when Ibrahim, which is spelled IBRAHIM .Sesay, SESAY .ActionAid, ACTIONAID @gmail.com. You can also WhatsApp them on a UK number. If you WhatsApp them from the outside, remember the country code 44 and then 079. Of course, if from outside you omit the 0, but the number is 079 312 12953. As much as you make them public, we will be happy for post these addresses and the little We at profile, I don't get that on Ibrahim because it's not community activity, it's public, not to shambolic or on the side thing. So we'll make them public now the forum. We get this as well as we get a WhatsApp page, a Facebook page, and a YouTube page. We go advertise them all over. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Sise. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay? You're welcome, sir.
All right, sir. Yeah, yes, we'll talk later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
No problem. Yes,
I want to say hello to Mr. Abdul Rahim Bangura. And I want to say hello to Mr. Kutubu Koroma and Supermed Mohammed Kamara 111. Welcome to the program. I am back, and I can see that you are back because you are with us. Thank you so much for being back. For those of you who are just signing on now, the topic we've been decided for talk on today, now the issue of corruption, okay? Now we national strata, we national structure, we, as a consequence of this corruption, it affects we country and we countrymen, and therefore we need to make development at all, or very little development, in as much as we could have done so much. So there are a few areas in our country, to be honest, which has not generated more scandals and controversy and affected, I repeat, the reputation of every administration. Listen to the emphasis is mine. Every administration, because before people can begin lay on probably you pointing finger here instead of there. No, this is broad. It cut across every one of them. So I say from every administration over the many years. And that particular industry, we don't struck this controversy and bad reputation. Now the ministry or the mining of gold and diamond now we country. Mineral they will depend on strongly when a heavy mineral them in terms of waiting and generate. This is not serious cash then we talk about. And government in focus, as we all know, those of us, we grew up then and even now, no say mining may they contribute significantly to the purse of the country. And waiting it they contribute to now in the help for bring development into the country. The easy availability of these metals, ladies and gentlemen, in the they talk about diamond and gold. Let me get them correct in the first place. So the easy availability of these particular metals, okay, how people can be easily able for reach them, for go through now the areas where they can be found, or even if they're not go, they use third parties, use conduits overtly, covertly. They don't come for hunt we country for quite a long time. Okay? Then loot over a wide expanse of the country. And because this wealth of ours is spread all over the country, it equally became very hard to police. Because in the so doing, we get plenty of we international friends, we neighbors, we not really can't help with, but for exploit a situation. And this is what happened over a number of decades. From then up till now, it is still happening. And I'm talking about the mining area, diamond, gold, which we really depend on. Somebody's just made their first contribution, which is corruption is endemic, but we are all responsible for that. Yeah, you're just highlighting, I appreciate the contribution, like the earlier guest talked about. Yes, it is endemic. We have to find a way to deal with it. And it's all over the society. Look, ladies and gentlemen, even the church is not corruption free. That's how difficult a situation that we find ourselves. So I was saying that because of the expanse area that diamond and gold covered in our country, it became very hard to police. And that became a nurturing ground for criminals of all kinds, from the far away to the near. So hence we Lebanese party and we come out way Lebanon. Not all of them, because about 70% of them indulge into good practices. They contributed to the society. But about 30% of them were unscrupulous individuals, thieves to be explicit. We exploit the country to an extent where really damaging. But I'll talk about that as I develop the case. I can see the chat room is getting heated. Sister Fatmata Kamara, welcome. And you're back. Thank you very much for coming back. Thank you very much for having faith. Mr. Ibrahim Sise, of course, thank you very much, Mr. Sise. Yeah. Sister Fatmata Kamara. Of course, this is factual. This is what we do on this channel. We dig deep and try to get factual information so we can put it out there to the people. We're not partisan in terms of the information that we try to give out. The thing here is Sierra Leone first. That's the agenda here. It's neither left nor right, but right in the middle and country first. 7.5 million people, if not more, 32,000 square miles. That's what we want to speak to, not a certain group. So as I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, this illicit trade in the precious stone industry, it continued unabated for over decades. And I'll talk about decades, from 1961 when we attained independence. And we just fast track and fast forward them because I say independence, because even before independence, this was ongoing. But after we take the mantle of leadership and said that we became a free people, this practice, this malpractice is still continue, and it continue up to this day. When a stone in capital letters turned to stone in recent times. Not taking a jibe at anyone, but this is just part of the trail of which, corruption has thrived and it's been taken for granted. And we have to find a way, to get out of it. I'm saying that the illicit trade has spanned this country unabated for over many, many decades. And the tangle web of those involved have seemingly helped to defy the best efforts of government. It's not like government have not done something or did not try to do something about it. Some governments did, or most governments did. But then because this wealth spread over a large portion of area, it became very hard to police. But this is no excuse in my view, because there should be more investment into it, because if you are generating this revenue that brings respite, that brings prosperity, that brings pride to your people, then you should invest in it to stop people from looting what you're looking up to generate revenue. So government did not use or impose satisfactory remedies. These are facts, and they could have done it. But as we develop into this story, we will see how complicit some of the government officials were in the looting, the raping, the plundering of this country in terms of what was supposed to be generated into the coffers of government, which will have changed the landscape in many respects of our people, which will have brought pride, I repeat, because, sometimes I take these issues kind of personal. And all because, like I said, it's about my country first. So when I speak, as I want to speak for 7.5 million people, if the few that are affluent and well-to-do think I'm not speaking for them, well then fine. But I want to speak for the many. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do on this channel. Okay? The network of this illicit trade, ladies and gentlemen, of diamond, it extended far and wide. It extended to many corners of the country and even other continents. So it was not only local. It was a well-spun web of smuggling routes, beginning from the country Sierra Leone to neighboring countries, with our precious stones in the end finding themselves rough and uncut in major Western capitals: London, Berlin, Amsterdam, New York, and that wonderful place called Antwerp, which I think as a boy and as girls or as little children, we used to hear like far-flung places where it was all well. You heard these romantic names, but they were involved in the plundering of our diamond and gold, our wealth. Let me just read some comments quickly. Hello, now true corruption really endemic na Salone, but I not really agree say na everybody responsible. Of course, Sister Anabi Musa Kamara, again, this is what this channel is about. We want contradicting views that probably most likely that are diametrically opposed, because that's the only way you can provoke an argument. Because like the brother earlier on say, we all get responsibility, and I think this is what he was trying to say. And some of these very people who are vulnerable, who think that they are not in the making of where wealth and resources passes through, they think they are not responsible for corruption. And I absolutely agree with the brother. Yes, they are. Because when you bribe someone, okay, just to get something done, that in itself is corruption, and you are aiding and abetting the practice. So to solve it, again, as the brother said, it has to be a concerted effort of me and you. Every one of us will have to come together to pull our strength and our everything and determination, attitude change. Because you first of all get to understand, say, and this is where the education side come in, and again, and I agree, you think you are not practicing corruption or you are not aiding and abetting corruption simply because of your ignorance. So if you are not told and explained to how you are a participant in this ugly business, then of course you will continue to fester in it, and corruption will continue to fester because it betters some and very few, while to a large extent most people continue to suffer. So another remark, some people are involved in corruption but not realizing that they are. Okay, yes, that's thank you very much, Mr. Sise. That's exactly what I was just saying. And somebody is saying hi to you, Ibrahim, I believe. Sister Victorine Ndikum is saying hi to you. Yes, that's exactly what I am saying. So it's no secret that the smuggling networks, it run through many corners of the country and ended up in major Western capitals and diamond traders in cities such as Antwerp, in a little country called Belgium, in a little town called Antwerp. Yes, Sister Vicky. Okay, you're still conversing with Ahmed. Ladies and gentlemen, the net effect of all this massive corrupting influence undoubtedly points to one particular source, and that's the Lebanese. Some of us may not like it because maybe we were benefactors, of this illicit trade. So when it's pointed out, you find it as an offense. But the truth has to be spoken, because again, if we say we get for reconcile with ourselves against corruption, then we need for begin for say the inconvenient truth, which is, even if I'm a friend of a Lebanese, I need for be equally able to look him in the face, in the eyes, with the mindset of 7.5 million people, and tell him, look, my friend, what you are doing is just simply wrong. Because what he's doing could personally benefit you. But imagine the number of people that you are depriving because you're indulging in this illicit trade, encouraging, aiding, and abetting another to plunder your economy, which others in the many could have benefited from. So it's about time, ladies and gentlemen, that we begin to find this courage, this strength deep within us. It's difficult because there's this selfish streak in every human being, which is about me, me, me. Very few people have risen above this, but even themselves are found to be vulnerable. Mother Teresa was one. She dedicated her life, all her life, to trying to help people out of poverty. Not really out of poverty, but how to manage it. Because there are many quotes. I think she said that poverty was not really a bad thing, or was not really from God. It was about a system. And if you understand that this is the way the system works, then you have to be within to manage that system. It's like the refugee crisis. It's like the hunger crisis. These are all man-made. So therefore, they institute disciplines that can help to manage these crises. And it's going to be ongoing. It's a vicious cycle. But in terms of our country, it's about time that we take ownership, that we take lead again. For if we don't, it will just continue to go down and down and down and down. We've had an opportunity recently in which the country descended into anarchy, in which hundreds of thousands of people died, maimed. Hundreds of thousands maimed, displaced, which is part of the problem in the country today. But we had a second chance because the peace was found. But it does not mean that because peace was found, so that there is relative, enjoyment, if you like. Because peace in itself is not the only ingredient. Because where justice does not prevail, where justice does not exist for your people, then of course there's no peace. The absence of violence does not mean, that there is peace. But with the presence of justice, people enjoy peace. So it's about time, ladies and gentlemen, Sierra Leoneans, we begin to dig deep and begin to address these issues, these inconvenient issues, to our brothers and friends.
Nice.
Okay? So I was pointing to the Lebanese as being directly responsible with few other West African nationals. We're not going to be naming names, but some of the Lebanese names are household names in Freetown. They've been there for decades. We know them, had their children there, and etc. But it's no secret equally that they were involved in the looting, raping, plundering of diamonds. Some of them helped to facilitate the war because it was in their interest. And when push came to shove, they fled to European capitals where they had massive investments, estates, you name it. Oh yes, they did. With some of our West African counterparts. Some from the Gambia, some from Senegal. They did not really come to help us, but they came to loot us. And I'm not talking to the vast majority of these nationals, because the vast majority of these nationals are always good people. But just like in our society, you equally find bad people. You equally find bad people. Okay? So I will say 70% of the population, 70% of the population of the Lebanese were indulged in legitimate business, and only 30% of them exploited or looted the nation's coffers. And what they looted, they never invested in the country. What they looted, they never invested in the country. They took it abroad. Some of them took it back home to Lebanon. Because allegiance, which is a critical thing, was never their thing because they were not Sierra Leoneans. They had only come in search of greener pastures, which in itself there's nothing wrong with for people to go in search of greener pastures. But when you come there, in anybody's country, you have to abide by the rules and laws of that country, just like some of us are in foreign lands where we find ourselves. But because ours is vulnerable, but because our institutions are not strong, because the rule of law is hardly ever there, and because officials of the highest magnitude are in cahoots, in bed with these people, they get away with it because of this selfish streak in us human beings, because of this disappointment of the officials that we elected to represent us. But I'm saying that only 30% of 100% of these people, so 70%, were indulged in trades, in legitimate trades, pay their taxes to government. We could see their stores all over the place. But 30% of them were involved in the looting of the economy. Some of these 30% started off again in the same trade as traders, and then migrated up into the diamond areas where they made their contributions, and then later on became diamond brokers, diamond businessmen. Okay? Some of them doubled as diamond dealers. So while they were not physically involved in the mining process itself, but they financed locals. And what they did at the end, when the locals find the wares, instead of it going to government, it went to them. And they had this chain, they had this web of a smuggling route. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, there was a Lebanese cabal there was a Lebanese cabal who were directly involved in this diamond trade. These two group of Lebanese men, they had some problems with our indigenous people, because either I said that we will look at the hard truth and try to talk about it, okay? I said that we'll have the talk about the hard truth. The demeaning behavior towards our indigenous people became the primary focus of resentment and condemnation. And I'm sure, again, some of us adults, like myself, do remember very well stories that were cataloged, finally cataloged, about abuse of these people to our locals, to our indigenous sisters and brothers. This is no secret. But because our people continue to be vulnerable, made so by the very governments, made so by the very officials in whom they repose their trust and confidence in to represent and serve them, others came from far afield and continue to insult our people. So that in itself grew resentment in people. So this in itself is a social problem, and it was never addressed. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is equally good to say that many of the Lebanese, along with some of our West African friends who were involved in this ruthless pursuit of diamond, they bribed and cheated at every available opportunity. It is equally no secret that diamond was smuggled under the very noses of these corrupt officials, because after all, they helped to facilitate the routes. They did. They helped to facilitate the routes. While they were giving chicken change, these people made millions, which should have benefited our people. This is easy to say that in the diamond fields of Kono, and Tongo, diamonds came directly from this particular point in the country. Tongo, I remember as a boy, when they mentioned Tongo, of course, it's diamonds. When they mentioned Kono, it's diamonds. Diamonds came directly from these places, flown by private jet, this little aircraft, maybe one engine or whatever, Cessnas, straight to waiting private jets at Lunge Airport. This is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. You can check it up. And this is how the route of smuggling diamonds continue. This continued until our civil war. And it was just the pattern that when the Americans came to Sierra Leone the second time, they released a security document in which they made it clear to the government that to help fight terror, because our country was being used by terrorists. They were economically terrorizing us because they were plundering and looting our coffers in terms of where we were supposed to generate hard cash from, and using the proceeds to fight others. So the Americans saw it fit when they released this document that people like Hezbollah, for those of you who don't know, Hezbollah is it used to be a fringe group, a resistance group to the creation of Israel and pushing Israel out of their place in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon. But now they are a dominant force. And to do so, of course, you need resources. And the hardest network that ran as far as from Lebanon into Sierra Leone, smuggling diamond and the proceeds using it to, they were taking care of their people. They had social services from our proceeds that we were meant to generate. They had social services, good hospital, which endeared their people to them. Today, they are a major political force in Lebanon. But the United States warn us that this and this is what you need to do. This has to stop. So gradually, we started taking control. But it's not like we were not complicit. I don't want to direct my fury, ladies and gentlemen, at the Lebanese alone. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. No. This is why I say I would like to direct the better half or part of this fury to some of our indigenous brothers and sisters, to some of the officials of government who protected this very cabal. Oh, yes, indeed, you heard me right, because without them, this trade will never have flourished. That can be said. Without them, Do not comply. Do not go along with it. It will not have flourished. But then that's what happened. They connived with the Lebanese and other West African nationals, plundered and looted our resources, which should have benefited our people, and took it to foreign lands. They bought estates in Western capitals, some of where we are. We hear the story. Sometimes we go past by some of the estates and people point out to them. So while they were buying estates abroad, and the irony of this is some of the estates that were bought abroad, which we will talk about next week, that's the sale of our United Nations mission in New York and our consulate in Rome, Italy. Some of those monies came from our very, very country. Do you see the irony of this? Do you see how we were being raped, how we were being exploited? This is unbelievable, but this is so quite true, ladies and gentlemen. This is so quite true. It's so quite true. And this is why stopping corruption has got to involve every one of us. It has to come through education, like the brother said earlier on. It has to. You have to be informed about the negative effects. Some of us have taken it for granted because it benefits quite the few. It benefits quite the few. Okay? Okay, so there's a conversation going on between two people in the chat room, which is brilliant. That's really brilliant. Okay? If many of the Lebanese and the people that also helped in the plunder of our resources succeeded in the dubious means of enriching themselves at the expense of the masses, the political and economic system, and most of them, was embodied in it.
It will stand against.
That's what I just said earlier on. It was embodied in it because the corrupt officials that collaborated with these people
the country and
are the very ones that were responsible for doing or allowing what happened to continue to happen under their very noses. Okay? Sierra Leoneans who were interested to serve the interest of the general public colluded with foreign thieves. And by virtue of this, keep missing some calls. By virtue of this, they all must bear responsibility. They should bury their heads in shame. But of course, we celebrate thievery. Thieves, we celebrate them. That's how endemic, and that's a critical word, endemic. The French will call it malaise. It's a sickness. That's how it has become predominant in our society, that we celebrate thieves. So the very indigenous people, our brothers and sisters who connived with the Lebanese and others to steal our natural resources and enrich themselves, are being celebrated. Their houses, their mansions, that is dotted all over the country, while people continue to languish in open sewers, Krube, Mabela, Kanike, you name it. People are there. And yet others continue to flourish. And this is a tiny, tiny majority. This cannot continue, yet to happen, ladies and gentlemen. It just cannot continue to happen. You can't have, your own people that you elect to office or you select to office to represent the nation's interest, to be colluding with outsiders to deprive government of hard-needed currency, hard-needed resources. You shouldn't. Because if you do, this in itself should amount to treason. It's corruption, and corruption should amount to treason. Because why should you be depriving your fellow countrymen while you're continuing to enrich yourselves? What has been a bypass, that it can happen. Without this treachery of these Sierra Leoneans, ladies and gentlemen, this action will not have continued, at least for not so long. According to a former minister of our country, this goes back to the 1970s, Dr. Koroma, that's Abdul Karim Koroma, it's hard to distinguish between those crook It's hard to distinguish between those crooked Sierra Leoneans and the Lebanese diamond thieves who rape our economy, who or which of them was the most wretched. These are quite strong words, but only if we've got pride in ourselves. A former VIP, I'm quoting him, said it's hard to determine, to find out, to say, to point out that between these two thieves, one foreign, one local, who was the most wretched in the looting of the economy. Who was the most wretched? It's obvious that as soon as these people assume power, I'm talking to all of them, as soon as they assume power, they expand so exponentially, both in physical and financial measures. As soon as they assume power, you will see a man that was as thin as a mosquito. As soon as he or she assumes power, they expand exponentially. And like I say, both in its physical, in their physical anatomy, and in their purse, in their financial success, if we will call it success. Okay? That's what happens. And why should this continue to happen? Because the message that this sends is it's okay to pursue political office because in so doing, you kind of enrich yourself. You sort of enrich yourself. So it's a kind of passage, it's a kind of gateway to changing your life for the good, which in itself should be a good and moral virtue, but at the expense of the many, which makes the whole thing questionable. Continue to do this to our people. It's really, really unfair. What corruption does, ladies and gentlemen, it undermines our politics. It undermines our democracy. I want you to spread this video, please, ladies and gentlemen. Please invite your friends and families. This message is quite important for us to hear. If you want to make a contribution, that's fine. But this is about every one of us. I am not finger pointing. I am talking to a nation and its people. It's about time that we wake up. Corruption undermines our democracy. We need to make laws. We need to make laws which has the quality to deter public officials from stealing. We need to make laws to deter public officials from stealing. Because of corruption in our politics, ladies and gentlemen, because of corruption in our politics, we as a people have failed to grow. Corruption in our politics has deprived us of our improvement on agriculture. So much so, ladies and gentlemen, that even though we are blessed with the best soil anywhere on Mother Earth, we still cannot afford to grow our own food. Even though we are blessed with the most fertile soil anywhere on Mother Earth, that when you try planting something, you don't even need to tend to it. You don't even need to nurture it. Just throw it to the soil and it sprouts out. That seed germinates. But even with this clear and present advantage, we cannot even grow our own food, ladies and gentlemen. And it's all because of corruption in our politics. So what we continue to do is to depend on others from far away. I'm talking about international organizations who gives us instructions. How can you rely on another people to feed your people? What sort of independence is that? How can you rely on another people to feed your people? International organizations now have to provide us with seeds so that our farmers can plant their crops. And these things don't come free, ladies and gentlemen. They don't. Because of corruption in our politics, our children's quality of education is down the drain. It is so much so that it lacks the required ingredients which will make them potential gatekeepers of their countries or their nations in the future. I'm talking about the growth of the nations. Because if you produce children with poor quality education, how do you expect them All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for that brief interruption. That is why I hate using the backup system, because the backup system, it brings up interference when I get a call and etc., etc. But I'm back. And now I'm saying that because of corruption in our politics, that has deprived our children of the quality of education, so much so that it lacks the ingredients needed, which is meant to be or make them potentially the gatekeepers of the nation's growth. If these children have got no proper education, how can they raise the nation from the kind of standard that these nations like ours find themselves? There has to be, people well educated, of sound minds, to understand the rubrics of governance, to understand what is at stake, what is wrong, how can issues be sorted, be solved. But this is unfortunate because of corruption in our politics. We continue to put out or manufacture mass failures, which has an effect on the nation's development, obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, because of corruption in our politics, our country's infrastructure has failed to grow. Because of corruption in our politics, our country's infrastructure has failed to grow. It has indeed failed to grow because of corruption. I am talking about the basic physical system of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make it clear. When we talk about infrastructure, we are talking about the basic physical systems of the country. I'm talking about the country's entire package. This implies transportation, communication, sewage, water, electric system, so forth and so on. All these systems, even though they tend to be of high cost investments, but they are equally vital to the very function of a country's economic development and prosperity. Ours is not a far-fetched reality. It's a feasible one. It's doable. It's reachable. But again, I say, because of corruption, this has eluded us. Because of corruption, we have failed to attain a maximum result in developing the infrastructures of our country. Okay? Unfortunately, this continues. And it's all because, again, ladies and gentlemen, of this one thing, the theme of today's subject, which is corruption. Our people cannot afford to get the basic essentials. The nation cannot prosper. And our people are meant to be the direct beneficiaries of these benefits. It continues to elude them. And as a consequence, they continue to suffer. Somebody's trying to join. Let me see if I can get them. Okay, that's Mr. Hamilton. Yeah, Mr. Hamilton, if you send me the invitation, there should be an invitation that you need to send. Once you send me that invitation, I will bring you on live. Look down for the invitation. I think you have to do it yourself, so I can see the contribution that you're trying to call. But you need to use one of the tools on your gadgets that you're using, and then I can bring you on live. Where are you here? Is that you here? Let me see. Okay, yes, I found Mr. Hamilton. Okay, Mr. Hamilton, I'm trying to add you. So whilst I'm trying to add you to it, let me just continue. That because of corruption, oh, come on.